Learners, welcome to lesson number 4, Tall Trees, a poem composed by Eileen Mathias. Now, before we start, we should know something about Mathias. Eileen was born on 25th July 1921 to the late Walter and Emma Cecil. She and her late husband Ralph Mathias had two children, Larry Mathias of Midvale and Beverley Adeems of Uruguay. She passed away on April 16, 2014. She retired from Fab, Ohio in Uruguay after 20 years of service as a librarian. Mary graduated from Washington University in St. Louis, where she majored in aerospace engineering. Before we read the poem, let's talk something about the trees. In how many ways are trees useful to life on Earth? What would the world be without trees? What do the trees symbolize? What message do the trees give us? Now, after completing this poem, you'll be able to read and enjoy the poem, explain the theme of the poem, pick out the words ending in similar sounds at end of the lines, explain how words ending in similar sounds add rhythm and flow to the composition. Identify personification. You will be able to feel strong in the presence of nature everywhere, and you will be able to recognize the values of caring and protection as expressed by nature. What is the poem all about? Now, the poem Tall Trees is about nature, especially tall trees. The poet was fascinated by trees. In fact, she is. To her, the trees are part of an integrated world where elements of nature like the clouds, birds, day, night, and moon work in close harmony with each other. The poet describes the activity of tall trees through the day, that is, from daytime through dusk to nighttime. Even when the world is sleeping, the trees are awake, doing their own duty. The trees are a symbol of lofty character and a selfless mission of care and protection to all the creatures. In return, the trees do not ask for any returns. The tall trees symbolize dignity and pride, but they are neither proud of their height nor stature. Even the small birds are dear to them. They give us human beings a valuable message. Be tall and powerful like trees, but be rooted, humble, caring, and selfless like them. Do you know that some tall trees in the rainforest can be more than 100 feet tall, but most of the tall trees around us in India grow to a height of about 40 feet. There are some numbers which I would like to tell you. Number 1, the tallest tree, coast redwood. It is 379.1 feet tall and it is in California, USA. On number 2, Australian mountain ash, 326.8 feet tall in Tasmania, Australia. The oldest human planted tree with the known planting date is Sri Mahabodhi sacred tree in Anuradhapura, Sri Lanka. It is 2,293 years old. This tree was planted from a cutting of the original Bodhi tree in Gaya. It takes 100 years to 3,000 years for a Bodhi tree to grow fully. Let us now read the poem once. Try to read along with me. Tall Trees by Eileen Mathias. With their feet in the earth and their heads in the sky, the tall trees watch the clouds go by. When the dusk sends quickly, the birds do rest. The tall trees shelter them safe in a nest. And when in the night, with the tall trees peeping, the moon shines down on a world that's sleeping. Now try to read this poem again, learners, and let us paraphrase the poem stanza by stanza and then line by line. With their feet in the earth and their heads in the sky, the tall trees watch the clouds go by. The poet is trying to stress on the fact that the trees are very tall. They have their heads in the sky, but they are anchored by their roots tightly to the ground. The tall trees are privileged in many ways. They can watch the floating clouds from a closer distance. In saying so, the poet seems to have given the trees head, feet, and eyes like human beings. Why does the poet compare the tall trees to human beings? Does the poet see some other similarity between human beings and the tall trees? Probably the poet had someone in mind who may have been great yet humble and caring. It could also be possible that she wanted to give a message to human or mankind to be like the tall trees, tall, strong and powerful, who would care for the weak and small. Now for a line-by-line explanation, with their feet in the earth. Over here, the roots have been likened to feet of the trees. They fix the tree to the soil. They absorb water and nutrients from the soil and pass on to the other parts of the tree. They hold the soil together and prevent it from erosion. Above all, they symbolize rootedness or humility. And their heads in the high? The tree tops are referred to as heads. The top of the tall trees are so high that they seem to be touching the sky. They symbolized dignity, pride, and an uprighteous character. The tall trees watch clouds go by. The trees over here in this line are so high that their tops seem to be touching the overhead clouds floating by. They can see the clouds and the sky more clearly due to their proximity to them. Coming to the second stanza, when the dusk sends quickly the birds to rest, the tall trees shelter them safe in a nest. The poet brings out the caring nature of the trees. In the evening, when the sun sets and night is approaching, the trees wait for their little birds to return to their nests after a day-long toil. Meanwhile, it takes care of their nests when they are away, thus providing them with comfort, safety, and shelter. Now let's explain this very stanza line by line. When dusk sends quickly the birds to rest. Sunset or dusk time is there for everyone to retire to their respective homes. The birds too try to fly back to their nests before it gets dark. The tall trees shelter them in their nests. What do the trees do at this time? They wait like anxious mothers for the return of their babies back home, where their bed is ready in the nest for a good rest. The trees protect their nests safely in their branches. Now, learners, stanza number 3. And then in the night, with the tall trees peeping, the moon shines down on a world that is sleeping. In this stanza, the poet has brought out a night scene when life comes to a standstill and every creature on the earth wants to rest. The tall trees stand like watchful guards along with the moon to keep a vigil on the sleeping world. It allows moonlight to filter through its branches so as to provide some light in the dark night. Now coming to explanation line by line. And then in the night with the tall trees peeping. At night time, the trees keep a vigil on the world down below and allow moonlight to peep through their branches like little torchlight rays. The moon shines down on the world that is sleeping. They allow the moon to peep down through their branches so as to allow it to keep a watch like a guard on the world that is sleeping. I hope you were able to understand the poem stanza by stanza and line by line. Now, coming to the central idea of the poem. Number 1, be selfless like a tree which gives shelter to the birds. Be tall like a tree, and it implies living a life of dignity and uprightness. Be taller than life. Be rooted to the earth implies to be humble. Ennoble life by living in harmony with nature. Be selfless in all that you do protect, and respect. The poet presents an integrated picture of nature. It is a harmonious world, as I told you, where various elements and objects of nature like the clouds, bird, day, night, and moon work in close association and without any disagreement. It is a pleasant picture of selfless care and protection. The trees provide shelter to birds and guard the world as it sleeps. They do not ask for anything in return. The trees are tall, but they are not proud of their height and stature. Even the small birds are dear to them. They love them and protect them at night. Human beings, now over here, who are tall and powerful like tall trees, should also be humble and caring like them. Now, this was the meaning, this was the interpretation of the poem. And now coming to the structure and rhythm pattern. The poem has 3 stanzas of 4 lines each. The length of each line is different. The last words of the second and the fourth line rhyme. We can say that the rhyming pattern is ABCB. The poet has used a variety of literary devices to add beauty to the poem. Coming to the figures of speech section, over here the poem is actually very rich in personification. Personification is a literary device used by poets to make inanimate things behave like human beings. When we speak of a thing as if it were a living being, it is called personification of that object. For example, when we say walls have ears, we speak of walls if they were living beings with ears. When we say fortune smiles on those who work hard, we give a human form and a smile to good luck. We apply human qualities and feelings to something that is not human in order to create a clear and vivid picture of that object or idea. Personification expresses the quality of the personified object as human qualities and relates it to the world of humans. This adds intensity and clarity to an expression. Poets often make use of this literary form. You will notice that the second and the fourth lines of each stanza in the poem end in words that end with a similar sound. The similar sounds lend a flow and rhythm to the lines and make them catchy and easy to remember. The similar sound at the end of the lines is called rhyme. The pattern of the rhyme varies from poem to poem. Poets create rhyme schemes of their own choice for the desired rhythm. In this poem, words like watch, heads in the sky, feet in the earth, shelter the birds, peeping are words that make us feel that trees are behaving like human beings. Now learners, try to know what imagery is. Imagery is the art of using words to create a picture of sorts in the mind of the reader. Usually, it is thought that imagery makes use of particular words that create visual representation of ideas in our minds. The word imagery is associated with mental pictures. However, this idea is but partially correct. Imagery, to be realistic, turns out to be complex than just a picture. For example, it was dark and dim in the forest. The words dark and dim are visual images. The children were screaming and shouting in the fields. Screaming and shouting appeal to our sense of hearing or auditory sense. Imagery needs the aid of figures of speech like simile, metaphor, personification, onomatopoeia, etc. in order to appeal to the bodily senses. Now, for example, over here, the trees watch the clouds go by. They allow the moon to peep down. All such expressions make us feel as though we are watching the scene. Symbolism. Now learners, symbolism over here is very important, which is actually the use of symbols to signify ideas and qualities by giving them symbolic meanings that are different from their literal sense. Symbolism can take different forms. Generally, it is an object representing another to give it an entirely different meaning that is much deeper and much more significant. Sometimes, however, an action, an event, or a word spoken by someone may have a symbolic value. For instance, smile is a symbol of friendship. Similarly, the action of someone smiling at you may stand as a symbol of the feeling of affection which that person has for you. Symbols do shift their meanings depending on the context they are used in. A chain, for example, may stand for union as well as imprisonment. Thus, symbolic meaning of an object or an action is understood by when, where, and how it is used. It also depends on who reads them. To develop symbolism in his or her work, a writer utilizes other figures of speech like metaphors, similes, allegory as tools. The tall trees here symbolize many things, such as the top of the trees symbolize heights to which one would like to reach. Number 2, uprighteous character of the highest order. Next, it symbolizes pride and dignity. Here, the roots symbolize steadfastness, rooted to the culture, humility. Coming to the tone and style of the poem, the tone of the poem is the attitude you feel in it. The writer's or the poet's attitude towards the subject or audience. The tone in a poem of praise is approval. In a satire, you feel irony. In an anti-war poem, you may feel protest or moral indignation. Tone can be playful, humorous, regretful, anything, and it can change as the poem goes along. When you speak, your tone of voice suggests your attitude. In fact, it suggests two attitudes. Number 1, one concerning the people you are addressing, that is your audience, and one concerning the thing you are talking about, that is your subject. That's what the term tone means when it's applied to poetry as well. Tone can also mean the general emotional weather of the poem. This is a broader question. It will certainly elicit many different responses. Style in poetry can refer to almost anything. It can refer to the way an author uses meter. For example, if an author always uses dactylic hexameter, then it might be his style. The same can be said if a poet uses literary devices such as personification, alliteration, assonance. Style can also be non-technical. It can refer to content. If an author always uses imagery from nature, then it can be his or her style. In short, style can refer to almost any aspect of poetry as long as the author tends to do it often. Style in poetry involves the method which a poet uses to convey meaning, tone, and emotion in his or her poem. For example, the meaning and significance can be conveyed through the form of a poem. Certainly, an ode or a sonnet is a much more formal arrangement used more for a serious matter, unless the poet is being satirical. Musical devices such as rhythm and rhyme are part of a poet's style. Words too are often chosen for sound as well as for meaning. An essential element is repetition, which reinforces meaning while variation invites interest. In fact, all things people enjoy have these two elements. The arrangement of the words in a line as well as the arrangement of lines in the entire poem both contribute to a poet's style. Since the poet's concerns are with experience, They choose certain stylistic devices to create significant and new experiences for their readers. In poetry, experiences can be synthesized, analyzed, enjoyed simply, etc. But the way in which poets present their poems is their style. Other stylistic devices that poets use are connotation, denotation, the suggested as well as the literal meaning of the words. Figurative language such as metaphors and similes also add more meaning and picturesque language to a phrase or word, as well as creating speed to the line, for example, as alliteration does. Here in this poem, personification does much wonders, as you must have realized by now. The language and style used by the poet is very simple and easy to understand. Now with this, learners, we come to the end of our explanation. I hope the explanation has been useful. Now remember, literature, especially poetry, is all about life, and there could be various perspectives and meanings to any line. If you internalize the words of a poem and open your inner eye, you will be able to unfold many meanings and interpretations. This is called appreciation. So feel free to give your interpretation to appreciation. Prepare well for your exams. Read and understand the poem thoroughly before taking the test. Equally important is the need to read and understand your questions well so that you can give relevant answers. So learners, bye for now. Best of luck and thanks.